talking about the Patton speech, which was actually done in England before the war. It was done in March, April, and May, and June, actually, before the war. And there's actual real copies of the speeches that were done. And the speeches didn't start off like the movie. They started off, all the stuff you've heard about America not wanting to fight, not wanting to be in the war, is a lot of horse dump. And he would change that from one verbiage to another. The speeches that he gave were extemporaneous based on a set of speeches that he always gave. So each one of them was just a little different. And they were full of all kinds of language of the period, and to hear the commanding general say words that you'd only hear in the back room was something of a novelty with the troops, and it made them listen. That's why he used that language. When you talk to him normally in a conversation, the language was not always there. But he knew that it perpetuated. And it started out that all this stuff you've heard about America not wanting to fight, not wanting to be in the war, is a lot of horse dump.
I want you to remember that no bastard ever won a war by dying for his country. No, he won it by making the other poor dumb bastards die for their country.
Because there was a lot of pacifism during World War II. We thought World War II was fought so that it would be, everybody was for it, but it took a while for them to understand what was actually going on in Nazi Germany and in places around. So that kind of thing was important for him to get. And he wanted them to know that the Nazis were not supermen. And he would tell them things like,
"We're gonna go through them like crap through a goose."
And they just laughed when they heard things like that. And he said, we're going to use them to grease the treads of our tanks. And then he would pause for a moment, and he would say something like,
"When you put your hand to a bunch of goo that a moment before was your best friend's face, you'll know what to do."
He says, some of you are worried that you're going to die. Only 2% of the people in combat die. You're going to live through this war. You're going to live a long time. But we have to fight, and we have to ruin this Nazi regime. And he would say it in many different ways, but he said it in a way that these kids could understand, because many of them were they'd never been 50 miles away from their hometown. So he would get in there, and I know, we got a tank coming. Well, this is kind of how it was. We had a tank coming.
Yeah.
And so he would get up, and he would say, the Nazis are not supermen. And then he would tell them that don't worry about whether you're going to chicken out under fire. Some men will do it for a little, will be afraid for a little while. Some of them will take it a whole day, but you look around and you'll see your fellow soldiers. You'll know what to do. You'll be fine. And we're going to win this battle. Then he would say, we have the best equipment, the best food, and the best men in the world. He says, I actually pity these poor bastards we're going to get. By God, I do. He wanted them to realize that the American army was far better than the German army. But the Germans had won the propaganda war, and they had perpetuated all over the world that they were Superman, and they weren't. And he's also fighting the media. Many generals have fought the medias over the years. And he would say stuff, those billiards bastards from the Saturday Morning Post don't know anything more about real war than they do about fornicating. He used another word there, but it was the idea. And he said that the army is a team, and eats, sleeps, fights as a team. And he wanted them to know that don't care what you've heard anywhere else. I'm your commanding general, and I'm going to lead you, and we're going to be victorious. And then he would always end with the idea that they would come out of the war. And he would tell them, 30 years from now, when you're sitting around with your grandson on your knee, and he asks you what you did in the Great World War II, well, you won't have to say, I shoveled crap in Louisiana. He used another word for that, too. Then he went on. There was more to it. He then said to them all,
from there, we're going over the Pacific. I don't want them Marines to get all the credit for killing the damn purple pills and Japanese. We're going to get over there and get a bunch of them as well.
And now, I don't want you to tell anybody there. Remember, if anybody asks you, I am not here, I am a secret. Now, the reason he said that was because he was speaking to 3rd Army, who was going to be in his command, and nobody knew it because they had a fake army that he was supposed to fight, and he was supposed to land at Calais. No one actually knew that he was going to be coming on after the main invasion. So the whole speech was done on purpose. And he stayed and gave the speech after the Normandy invasion as well. A lot of people don't realize that. And the reason he did that, because he was trying to fool the Germans into thinking that the Normandy invasion was not the main invasion, and it worked. So there's a lot to the speech that people don't really understand, and you can't get that out of the movie. Although the movie is a wonderful movie, it didn't tell the whole story.
All right, you sons of bitches. You know how I feel. I'll be proud to lead you wonderful bastards into battle anytime, anywhere. That is all.
Come